Hi, welcome to another episode of The Pipeline. My name is Carlos Concepcion, and today I'm very honored to have our next guest in this show. His name is Lechuga. He's known as the Condo King of Miami. And right after this show, I invite you to go to Google and type in Miami condos for sale and see who shows up number one organically there. Again, welcome, Lucas. Tell us a little bit more about you and how it all started. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Going back to that question, how I got into real estate is actually my mother. My mother, when I moved here, let me backtrack a little bit. So when I lived in Chicago, I was an equity options market maker with the Chicago Board of Options Exchange. So I worked there for 4 years. It was, I don't know, like some of the audience members may or may not know what an equity options market maker is, but it's basically like one of those guys that are in the pits that are yelling, buy, sell, so I was one of those guys that you see on TV that are, yelling, blah, blah, blah. And so it was an amazing job. And yeah, so I ended up moving to Miami in 2004 after that. And I got into real estate, but before that, I didn't really want to get into real estate because I didn't want to do sales. I didn't want to be that pushy sales guy. Because for me, sales was all about being pushy, and I didn't like that connotation of it. So I remember my mother was like, why don't you get into real estate down there? And I'm like, because she saw how hot the market was back in 2004, 2005. Actually, yeah, 2005. I moved down here in 2004, but I started seriously thinking about getting into real estate in 2005, and she's like, why don't you look into getting into real estate? And I'm like, no, I don't want to be a salesman. I don't want to be that pushy sales guy, And she's like, don't think about it that way. Think about it as you're an educator. And I thought about that. I was like, you know what? You're right. And I came from a financial background. I was a trader from Chicago. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take the whole real estate game and put it into price per square foot and make sense to not only the average home buyer, but investors out there that are looking to invest in Miami. Because back in the day, it's different now. The market's different now, but back in the day, it was a lot of investors. Now, you have a lot of end users or second home buyers that are buying here. But 10 years ago, 15 years ago, actually, I've been in real estate now 17 years. But back then, it was a lot of people from South America, a lot of people from all over the world that were just putting money into Miami just to park it. So they were buying condos, and to them, they wanted to know what made sense, what was a good investment. So I started MiamiCondoInvestments.com. I started in 2007, and just to give some the audience background on it, because a lot of people think this website just popped up, but it's been a lot of work. In 2007, I started it as a free blog. It was free. It was.
I was about to ask you. Yeah, I was about to ask you why digital? Why you went that route? Why not printed? What made you start Miami Condo Investments?
So I started it, to be honest with you, because I was bored. Because in 2007, when I launched the website, the market was so slow. There's a lot of people in that market. There's a lot of agents that I was friends with back then that got out of the game because they're like, the market's dead. We need to go find another job. And I was like, you know what? I had attended a conference, I don't know, probably a few months before I started the blog. And I remember the presenter was saying, during a dead market, you need to spend more money than your competition because they're all cutting back. The market's dead. So your competition is cutting back on marketing expenses. So this is your opportunity to put yourself forward. So spend more money during the down markets, and then you'll put your face out there even more. And I didn't have money back then to do that. But I'm like, you know what? I could put my time, which to me back then was my equity. That was my value. So I started the blog and I started writing about the market. And I figured, you know what? I'm going to invest not money, but my time into this venture. And, it may be 2, 3 years, whatever. But at the end of it, when everything's said and done, this audience hopefully will trust what I'm saying and what I'm writing, and then they'll work with me. And I remember I was actually working for a broker back then, and he was like, "You're writing so like negatively about the market." He's like, "You're not going to ever get any clients." I'm like, "Trust me." I'm like I'm earning their trust. It's a process. So he was like, "You're not going to be around by the time that happens." And I'm like, "I'm gonna wait it out." And trust me, those were lean years. I mean, those were very, very difficult years. But
Well, but as a pioneer on the industry and the internet as well, you invested your time into writing all this content, but I'm assuming that there was a time where it panned out, right? Where that trust was acquired. And, for people that are just joining, you have massive amount of traffic and visitors now per month, and your website is, everybody mentions Miami Condo Investment today. When they're talking about real estate in Miami, they have to mention Miami Condo Investment. So, but for those who are maybe now wondering, how to start a website, like when was that time where you said, okay, data worked, now I got that trust? When the transactions happen?
to be honest with you, it was a long time. There were clients in the beginning. I started the website in 2007. We actually just celebrated our 15th year anniversary. So 15 years it's been in the running, which is a huge accomplishment. To have a website in any industry for 15 years is huge. So I'm very happy about that. But to be honest with you, in the first 5 years, there were a lot of people that were like, "Hey, we trust this guy, but we don't really know him yet." I don't know. And a lot of times, maybe they were working with other agents. Yeah, it really honestly didn't hit really big until maybe 7, 8 years in. And it was because I was consistent, and the people came to me 7, 8 years in, and they were like, "Hey, I've been following you since you started." And I told myself I was gonna work with you. But there were some people, like, let me backtrack. There were some people in the beginning that, started following my blog right away and said, "Hey, I want to work with you." So, but it didn't get really, really big until probably 7 or 8 years. So, I definitely got business year one, because I was very consistent. And not only was I very consistent, but I was writing back then, like I kind of alluded to earlier. I was writing about the realism about the market, which was kind of negative back then. It was about foreclosures, about short sales. The market in 2007, 2008 was terrible. It was like one of the worst real estate markets that we've ever seen. And like I said, I started the blog because I was bored, because the market was dead. But so I started writing about all the foreclosures. I started writing about the short sales and all that. And I started getting mentions from the Wall Street Journal, the International Business, what is it called? The International Business Review, or the International Business Daily, Financial Times. Huge publications. So they were all linking to Miami Condo Investments, because they would interview me, and then they would mention me and be like, "Hey, this guy's writing about the mortgage implosion that's happening in Miami." And I was not only writing about the mortgage implosion, but I was writing about mortgage fraud, which was a big issue back then. And a lot of people didn't even realize that it was going on. But I remember back then, probably around 2009, somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, like, the FBI is noticing what you're writing, because you're writing about the mortgage fraud." And they hadn't realized what was going on in Miami, but because of what you're writing, like, they now have their eyes on it. And you're right, like, it's going on. So it was a big issue back then.
So much value in the content that you put out there through the years for for everybody, especially for real estate investors, like you said, and people looking overall in the real estate market. But no, that's an amazing story, Lucas. And again, for me, it's very interesting to have you here today because everybody mentions your site. I keep repeating myself because it's daily. Everybody comes to us and it's like, hey, I want to know what he's doing. We want to know what he's doing. And through the years, we have seen Miami Condo Investments also change. You have switched your content and you have also gone more into video creation and switching your strategy. And, we are in the digital side of it. So we also want for those viewers out there to also know what makes you create your content on the way of switching the strategy. Why are you trying to go after? What's your audience for Miami Condo Investment today?
Well, I mean, it's an evolving market. I think back in the day, I was in 2007, 2008 when I launched my blog. That was like the format. That was like pretty much the only format to get your word out. And now, because of technology, things have changed. Things have progressed, and technology has gotten better. So, after blogging, it was like social media, and people started using social media to get the word out. And I've always used a combination. I've always used my website and social media. And then it became video. And actually, I started doing video back in 2010, but the quality back then was terrible. I mean, like, it was so pixelated that you couldn't really even see anything. But I did it because I was like, you know what, this is the future. And now the quality is amazing. I mean, it's like you're in the same room as people, So, but I've actually sold a lot of property from videos alone. And so there's people, and it's not because of the content. It's more because they get to know me. And I think that's how like blogging and social media and video has evolved. It's all along it's been about getting to know you, because these people don't have realtors in Miami for the most part. A lot of them don't, especially the international buyers. They find websites or social media or videos, and they get to know you. And the person that they feel the biggest attachment to, they'll stick with. They'll hire you.
They'll trust you. They create that trust with you because of the amount of content, quality content, and strategic content that you put out there. And that's 100%. We agree with you 100% on that. And that's why some of our viewers ask, and I would like to ask you, based on your website now, based on your digital ecosystem, like, how would you value that today? Like, if you were to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to retire, I'm going to this, like, how much would you value your digital ecosystem?
I've actually been asked that question a lot. And if you would have asked me probably like 5 years ago, I would have probably said something small, like $1 million or something. I don't know. Maybe 10 years ago, I would have said $1 million. But it goes up every year, because every year I'm putting in more and more content into it. So it's growing. I mean, like, now I have 3 full-time employees. I have a weekend assistant, and we're all pushing content to the website. We're adding more buildings. So to me, the more buildings I have on the website, the more money the website brings in, because obviously there's more leads and all that. To answer your question, I hate to be put on the spot, but
well, you don't have to answer, but it's I just wanted to
it's over 10 million. Let's put it that way.
A lot of people come to us and ask us, and they tell us, "Hey, I want to build that website," and I keep telling them, I can't quote you because this is years and years and years of hard work and content.
It's a very, very time-consuming product, and I don't even know how I would duplicate it. Let's say that let's go backwards. Let's say that I lost the website today and I wanted to do it all over again. First of all, I'd be like,
what would you do?
I don't know. I don't know what I would do. But the thing is, I would be able to do it again twice as fast as anybody starting from scratch, because I've already done it. So I've already learned the ins and outs. I already know exactly, the pitfalls of running a website, owning a website, and all that. I know how to do search engine optimization, which is probably one of my, I'd say, like, that's one of my expertise, is search engine optimization. Like, I've never hired an outside company to do the SEO for me.
Okay.
So I've always done that for myself, which, yeah, I've read about it. I've done a lot of research about
How do you see the SEO going along now with Google algorithms and AI and Cortana? How do you
I
think
think
that?
video is a big part of it. I think as human beings evolve in the content that they want to see, I think Google's evolving with them. So I think video is a big part of it. I think you know the questions we ask in Google, that's a big part of it too, because that's AI. I mean, AI is what's providing those answers. So if you're in the top, I don't even like to say top three because I honestly like the third position probably doesn't even get clicked on very much, but the top two. But really, you need to be number one. You really need to be number one in order to drive a lot of traffic.
No, for sure. And Lucas, I always like to ask this question at the end, and is if put yourself in the mindset of a new agent. Like, what would you recommend to a new agent today, especially when you are in a such competitive market, and like you said, at number one for a long time now? But what would you recommend an starting agent who is maybe thinking, getting their brand out there or create a website? What would be your personal advice to them? What would you recommend them to be doing?
It's a good question. So, in your previous question, you asked about me selling the website and what it would be worth. So I've actually put myself in that position and said, hey, like, what if I sold the website and started all over again? What would that look like? What would I do? Because it's such a saturated market right now. There's so many agents. Back when I started the website in 2007, I think pretty much the only blog in Miami that was writing about real estate. I mean, there was a lot of blogs, but I think I was like the only one that was writing about real estate back then. So I didn't have any competition. Now it's much, much different. I mean, everybody's trying to write. There's a lot of content out there that doesn't even really circulate, because it just doesn't get any traction, any traffic. But to answer your question, I would go niche. And that's my best advice to anybody that's starting brand new is find your niche. And that means if you're doing condos, find a building or find two buildings that you want to specialize in and be the expert in those two buildings. If you're doing single family homes, find a subdivision or two subdivisions, and that's your bread and butter. That's your niche. And if you're into horseback riding, do equestrian houses. It's a perfect blend. So that's my advice.
Oh, awesome, Lucas. Thank you so much. The whole meaning of this podcast is to bring light into agents like yourself who have leveraged, their internet. You have put your knowledge out there. You have brought value to your community and to, thousands of other agents that use your website as a resource for their own work. Right. So I definitely thank you for you being here today. It has been a pleasure for me to talk to you. And anything that you want to add, anything that you want to say for those viewers or that maybe today is the first time they're meeting you?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. But yeah, I mean, like find your niche, work at it. It's not going to come easy. It's all about dedication. It's all about consistency. That's the key. You have to be consistent about it, and you can't expect quick results. You really need to go into it and say, you know what? I'm not going to get one sale from this for 6 months, but I'm going to do it every single day because I know after the 6 months, I'm going to get some clients. That's the mentality that you need to go into it with.
I couldn't have said it better. Again, Lucas, thank you very much for your time. And I can't wait to have you back on the pipeline again. So until the next time, thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, take care.